Hello and welcome to Over the Vast Nurseries. It's a beautiful day in late summer and I'm excited to be able to show you these plants, these gorgeous late flowering perennials that are among some of the most valuable perennials that we can grow in our gardens for providing colour at the back end of the season in the fall. These are, of course, Japanese anemones, or sometimes known as the fall blooming anemones. And what's more, they are absolutely gorgeous. Not flowering just yet, but as you see, these plants are absolutely loaded with lots of buds that are just now beginning to open. And I'm filming this deliberately because if I wait too long until they flower, they won't be here, because our sales department will send these out to a network of garden centres that work with us to be able to distribute these plants right through our region. That's the mid-Atlantic and northeastern states of the US. So I'd love to be able to show you these in colour, but you're going to have to rely on some pictures that I can put in with this video to let you see what they look like when they're in full blow. Or better still, why don't you go and visit some of our partnering garden centres, there's hundreds of them, and pick up some of these plants yourself and you'll be able to enjoy them in your own garden. Now, there's several reasons why I'm excited to be able to show these to you. The first is that this is a really superb variety. It's called Fall in Love Sweetly, introduced by proven winners. It's one that was bred by Hans Hansen at Walter's Gardens, and I just love it because, as you see, it's nice and vigorous and yet doesn't get too tall, grows about 2 foot high or so, and is very free flowering. Just look at the amount of flower buds that these plants have here, and the fact that they're coming from inside the canopy, so that this is one that's going to keep flowering for really a remarkably long time, literally months. It's a plant that produces lots of nice green foliage too, that helps to fill in around the base of the plant. Now, they make a clump, but they produce little rhizomes that spread out, and so through time, if you were to plant a nice big bold group of them, kind of like we have here, you'll find that in between the plants will have some of these rhizomes that will sprout up and just make for a really nice, thick, compact, spreading mounds that are going to give you lots and lots of very valuable colour. But you know, there's another reason why I'm excited to be able to show you these beautiful plants. And that's because, as you see, these are really beautiful, really healthy, vigorous, strong growing plants. You see, for years, we gave up trying to grow Japanese anemones. There's a little microscopic pest called foliar nematodes. It's a little worm-like rascal that lives in the leaves. You can't see it with the naked eye, but what it does is that it disfigures and takes away the vigor of plants, and therefore they never really grow and show off all of their promise. And we could not really get a good, reliable source of young plants, so we just gave up growing them. But today, with the modern production techniques, we're able to get young plants like this that have been produced in a sterile laboratory situation, and as you see, when they grow out, they're absolutely beautiful with lots and lots of buds, and these plants are going to put on a terrific show. Now, that little pest, if you want to find out more about it, I'm sure your local extension agents will be able to tell you more about it. One thing that if you're growing Japanese anemones in the garden, I would suggest is after they finish flowering and we're going into the winter time, go in and trim off the whole tops of the plants and take that debris and dispose of it. Don't put it on the compost pile, because if you've got some infected plants already in your garden, that will still persist in the compost pile for up to 3 years, would you believe? So it's very important that you take that debris, clean up your clumps, and then have them in the garden and start off with clean, healthy plants like this, so that then you're able to have Japanese anemones or fall flowering anemones that are able to grow out and show off all of their gorgeous beauty. And on that point, can I suggest that you become a little wary of knockdown prices and plant sales? In fact, I would suggest you need to probably just make sure that you're buying your plants from a reputable source. Some of the worst pests and diseases, and indeed even weeds, were plants that I bought thinking that I was getting a bargain. Turned out that I was getting way more than I expected, and some of the plants that I thought were really good bargains turned out in the end to be very expensive. So it's worth paying a little extra and getting good, strong, healthy plants. There's a reason why those are sometimes priced a little bit more than some of the knockdown ones that you're likely to perhaps be tempted by. Now, if you're looking for a spot to grow some in your garden, they'll grow in a sunny location or in a partially shaded situation too. In fact, my preferred site is somewhere with a little bit of dappled shade. That's where you manage to get them to really show off all of their gorgeous beauty. If you put them into a shadier spot, they'll still grow, but they'll tend to get a bit elongated and might be a little floppy. And one of the things about them is to make sure that the soil that you're growing in is free draining. They don't like it on the dry side. They're going to shrivel up a little bit if they're under some drought stress. And if they're wet, you're likely to run into some root problems. So just make sure that your soil is free draining. And like I mentioned earlier, be sure to incorporate plenty of organic matter and mulch the ground too, because that'll help to keep the roots cool, and they'll love that and respond very well. Outside of that, really, they'll grow very well in a variety of situations in the garden. Just a bed or a border will be fine. They're perfect plants for putting into a cottage style garden. They're wonderful plants for a cutting garden. These make fabulous cut flowers. You can go out and chop off these lovely big strong stems, bring them in and put them into an arrangement. Absolutely wonderful in that sort of situation. And of course, if you have a woodland garden, they'll be very nice there too, where you might have little clearings and glades, and if you come around the corner and come across a clump of these, it can be really quite stunning. And another advantage that I nearly forgot to mention, and that is that fortunately they're really seldom bothered by the likes of rabbits and deer. So I'm excited, as I said, for a whole variety of reasons to be able to show you this beautiful variety, one that I hope you'll be able to go out and buy and put into your garden and be able to enjoy for years. This is David Wilson. Enjoy your gardening. It's good for us, and it's very good for our environment too.